a tense stealth game with superpowers set in the 70s filled with glorious fat pixels. Transform into enemies, dash, teleport, slow time, and super punch your way through this moody retro stealth game. Welcome to episode 19 of the 5 T's of Stealth, where we will be discussing the Chameleon. Once again, the 5 T's include tasks, terrain, tools, threats, and tension. These are what I consider to be the fundamentals of stealth gaming. The Chameleon takes place at the LRS, which is initially a mystery to the player. But as we progress, we learn that LRS stands for Lunar Research Station. This game takes place within a facility on the moon, where they are examining and experimenting on Lunites, which are aliens with special abilities located on the moon. The objective of this experiment is to create superpowered humans, take the abilities from the Lunites, and give them to humanity. When the game begins, we are surrounded by the bodies of broken robot guards. We are told to escape as our only objective, leading me to believe the player is an escaping test subject. However, as the game progresses, more details about a Dr. F come to light. It seems our appearance is actually his, and there's even some scattered lore about the guards acting weird around Dr. F as of late. It seems we perhaps had some degree of a friendly relationship with Dr. F. As noted on the Steam Community Hub, the player was a Lunite that Dr. F turned into the Chameleon. My theory is at some point our character took the identity of Dr. F and then went on a rampage. But who knows? To escape each section of the facility, you will have to find a terminal which will unlock the necessary door. Once you learn that you're on the moon, you have to collect 3 keycards in order to board the final evacuating shuttle. During this time, you will unlock your true form and a new objective: invade the Earth. Once on board, the credits roll, which I like. It lets the player decide what happens once on Earth. However, I'd love a sequel to see what actually occurs. As I mentioned, the Chameleon takes place within the LRS, which is a lunar research station. This means the whole game takes place on the moon, but more specifically, a facility located on the moon. The map takes you through various locations, including warehouses and guard storage, until you travel through a long connecting tube which reveals you are on the moon and takes you to the main LRS facility. This transition is pretty effective in my opinion, and the interior of the main facility feels pretty unique when compared to the beginning warehouses. There are a few passages hidden behind breakable walls within the warehouses that add a bit more to the exploration of each zone. All in all, the level design is solid, but won't be anything you write home about. The big reveal that you're actually on the moon is more of a mind-blowing event in terms of the story, because you were never actually on the surface of the moon. As a Lunite, you have a handful of special abilities at your disposal. First of all, to unlock a new ability, you have to collect these giant orbs that are floating around the map that I believe were hinted to be excess Lunite flesh. However, you do start the game with one ability, the Super Punch. This is a one-hit KO, but it drains all of your energy and it won't start to recharge again for 5 seconds. That's right, every ability in the game is tied to an energy bar. Luckily, there are purple capsules around the map that will increase your max energy. The first new ability you unlock is the titular power, the Chameleon. This allows you to transform into a guard and proceed undetected. The next is a dash, which grants you a short burst of extreme speed. This can also be used to travel across gaps in certain areas. After that, you will learn the ability to slow time, which is exactly what it says it is. Then, you'll unlock a better punch, which uses less energy and therefore eliminates some of the downside to actually punching things. I think I would have preferred if this was the default Super Punch. The last power-up you find, I briefly mentioned earlier, will unlock your true form. Upon gaining your true form, you visually change and have a few other benefits. You now have an absurd amount of energy that is either unlimited or recharges when you eliminate a guard. You can eliminate any guards, we'll talk about it more in threats, but previously some were immune to your punches. And lastly, it seems you can no longer morph into guards in this form, which makes sense. General movement feels pretty solid. By default, you have a pretty slow walking speed, but you do have access to a sprint. However, the guards will hear you sprinting. There is, of course, also a crouch, and when behind cover, you can peek around to the sides or even over the top. Last but not least, you can whistle to attract a guard. In the Chameleon, the only enemy you have to worry about is your basic guards. In this game, however, guard is an acronym, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was or find it again in game, and I'm not going to spend forever searching. These robot guards will one-tap you, but they have horrible detection and they don't react to the mangled bodies of other guards on the floor. You can get pretty close to them even when they're facing in your direction before they start to engage. As I mentioned earlier, they are attracted to noise and will react if you're sprinting around. There seems to only be one variation of these guards, which I at first assumed was a normal guard wearing some form of electrified suit. But if I'm understanding it correctly, it's actually guards that are missing a certain panel or something along those lines, making them unstable. These guards are constantly electrified and cannot be punched until you unlock your true form. Lastly, in the final area, there are turrets that shoot all organic matter, making your chameleon ability worthless. These things shoot very slowly, and I don't think I ever actually got hit by one. I believe the slow time power is made in response to the turrets, but just for fun I didn't use it and was still pretty easily able to dodge all the shots. The chameleon definitely unfortunately lacks tension. This is an incredibly easy game, and the stealth system is pretty bare bones. Whenever a guard came close, all you had to do was transform, sprint at it, and then punch. Now the area is pretty safe. In more populated areas, you could just, again, transform and sprint towards the objective. In a way, it mirrors the stopwatch that could freeze time from The Spy Who Shrunk Me, covered in episode 8. Some abilities just start to turn into a get out of jail free card. Alternatively, let's say you do get caught. Well, it's really not the end of the world. Once the guards start chasing you, it's actually really easy to just keep running. In order to punch you, the guards have to briefly stop. So as they are chasing you, whenever they get close enough, they have this short delay, which will once more allow you to keep running, even if the guards are faster than you. It partially starts to lose its place as a stealth game in some ways, because it almost turns into more of a game of tag or a chase sequence. That's not really stealth, and it's certainly not high intensity. Something I did appreciate was whenever the guards did manage to punch you, you didn't lose any progress. Any guards you had eliminated were still eliminated, and any terminals activated were still complete. A bigger complaint from me would be how this turns into a waiting game. As mentioned earlier, whenever you punched, it would cost all of your energy and delay the recharge for 5 seconds. While I can understand this is most likely done in an attempt to balance the strength of the punch, it really just ruins the pacing of the game. Now, all the cool abilities that are one of the best parts of the game are off limits and you have to sit and wait. Seriously, it was an absurd amount of sitting and waiting for your energy to recharge. I know the stealth genre is typically all about patience, and I'm absolutely here for that, except for in a case like this where it basically prevents you from acting even if the opportunity presents itself. I will admit though, punching the guards never failed to amuse me. It's pretty damn funny with how hard you're hitting these guards to see their bodies just flail and go flying. I also found it funny when on occasion I would actually trade blows with a guard and now we're both just lying there dead. The Chameleon is another game by Antonio Freire. Once again, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And funnily enough, my opinions here mirror how I felt about Under a Star Long Cold, which was covered in episode 11. The concept and story are very intriguing and kept me wanting to know more, while the abilities granted to my character were exciting and a joy to use. However, just like Under a Star Long Cold, the enemies are atrociously stupid, the map design is okay at best, and the tension is practically non-existent. When comparing the two, I would say I prefer the story of the Chameleon, but the actual feel of my character was better in Under a Star Long Cold. I believe Antonio has 2 more games within the stealth genre, No Sun to Worship and Undetected, both of which I am excited to one day play. The Chameleon is not without its issues, but just like with Under a Star Long Cold, the tasks and the tools make this a truly compelling experience that I am very happy to say I've completed. The Chameleon is yet another flawed but intriguing Antonio Freire game, and I happily recommend it to you.